We found the 10 most expensive royal palaces on Earth. One has over 1,700 rooms, another is covered in real gold, and the most expensive one, worth a jaw-dropping $70 billion. Make sure you watch till the end, because you will not believe which palace is so massive, so historic, and so valuable, it basically makes every other mansion look like a garden shed. Let's kick things off with a royal palace that's straight out of a fairy tale. Windsor Castle is one of the oldest and most famous castles in the world. It was built way back in the 11th century by William the Conqueror, and since then, almost every British king and queen has lived there at some point. It's located in Berkshire, England, and is still an official home for the royal family. This castle is huge and beautiful. It has amazing rooms called state apartments, a chapel named St. George's Chapel, where royal weddings and funerals happen, and massive parkland. Queen Elizabeth II used it as her weekend getaway and lived there during her later years. Windsor Castle is worth about $650 million today. But wait till you see the palace with 1,300 rooms and a maze in the backyard. Hampton Court Palace is a really cool royal palace located next to the River Thames, just outside of London. It was first built in the early 1500s by Cardinal Wolsey, but when he lost power, King Henry VIII took it over. Henry made it one of his main homes, and a lot of history happened there, like his marriages and fancy banquets. Later on, kings and queens like William III and Mary II added new wings to the palace, including the beautiful Baroque-style side. The palace has 1,300 rooms, formal gardens, and even a super fun hedge maze. Shakespeare's plays were performed in its Great Hall during Queen Elizabeth I's time, which is pretty awesome. Today, the palace is worth around $1.3 billion. That's mostly because of how big the estate is, 800 acres of land, and the historic building itself. That might sound grand, but things are about to get golden. Literally. Dolmabahce Palace is a super fancy royal palace in Istanbul, Turkey. It was built between 1843 and 1856 by Sultan Abdülmecid I and became the main home for Ottoman rulers. Before that, they lived in the older Topkapi Palace. Dolmabahce is right by the Bosphorus River, which makes the views even more amazing. This palace is straight-up luxury. It has 285 rooms, 46 halls, and some of the craziest decorations you'll ever see. Huge crystal chandeliers, gold ceilings with 14 tons of gold leaf, and French furniture everywhere. 6 sultans lived here, and even Ataturk, the founder of modern Turkey, used it and passed away here in 1938. The palace cost a fortune, so much that it almost bankrupted the Ottoman Empire. Back then, it cost about 35 tons of gold. Today, that's around $2 to $3 billion. Luxury's cool, but how about 1,700 rooms and stables with AC? Istana Nurul Iman is the official home of the Sultan of Brunei, Hassan al-Bolkiah. The name means Palace of the Light of Faith, and it's honestly one of the most jaw-dropping palaces in the world. It was finished in 1984 and sits on a hill near the capital city, surrounded by greenery and a river. This palace isn't just fancy, it's massive. It holds the world record for being the biggest royal palace that's actually lived in. It has 1,788 rooms, 257 bathrooms, and a banquet hall big enough for 5,000 guests. There's even a mosque that fits 1,500 people, 5 swimming pools, a stable with air conditioning for 200 horses, and a garage that can fit 110 cars. Back in 1984, it cost about $1.4 billion to build. If you adjust for inflation and today's prices, it's now worth around $3.9 billion. This next place has history, drama, and even got stormed. The Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, Russia, is straight-up royal luxury. It used to be the official home of the Russian Tsars from 1732 until the monarchy ended in 1917. The building we see today was finished in 1762 and is painted in this super cool mint green and white color. It has around 1,500 rooms. A lot of important stuff happened here, like in 1917, when revolutionaries stormed it during the Russian Revolution. Now, it's part of the Hermitage Museum, which is one of the biggest and richest art museums in the world. The Winter Palace is worth about $6.4 billion. The land alone in downtown St. Petersburg is worth around $1.4 billion, but the real gold mine is what's inside. The Hermitage has over 3 million items, famous paintings, Egyptian mummies, and even jewel-covered Fabergé eggs. Royal, sure, But this next one has its own private pool in central London. Buckingham Palace is probably the most famous palace in the world. It's right in the middle of London and is the main home of the British royal family. It was built in 1703 for a duke, but King George III bought it in 1761. Later, King George IV and Queen Victoria made it the official royal residence in 1837, and it's stayed that way ever since. The palace is huge. It has 775 rooms, including fancy halls for royal events, a private swimming pool, and even a garden that covers 40 acres. You've probably seen the iconic balcony where royals wave during big celebrations. As for its value, experts say Buckingham Palace is worth about $4.9 to $5 billion. That includes the land, which is super pricey because it's in central London, the giant building itself, and all the fancy furniture and art inside. Some say if it were ever sold, it could even go for $7 billion. That's royalty. But this one sits on land worth over $11 billion. The Tokyo Imperial Palace is where the Emperor of Japan lives. It's located right in the heart of Tokyo, in one of the most expensive areas of the city. The palace grounds are huge, with beautiful gardens, bridges, and even moats. It's built on the spot where Edo Castle once stood, which was used by Japanese shoguns hundreds of years ago. The current palace buildings were rebuilt in the 1900s, with the main one finished in 1968. It's not super old like some other palaces, but it's still packed with history and culture. The land alone is worth a crazy $11.25 billion. Add another $1 billion for the buildings and royal stuff inside, and you get a total value of about $12.25 billion. And what if your royal home also doubled as the most visited museum on Earth? The Louvre Palace in Paris is not just a museum. It used to be a royal home. Way back in the 14th century, it started as a fortress, then turned into a fancy palace for French kings. But after the royal family moved to Versailles and the French Revolution happened, it became a public museum. Today, the Louvre is one of the most famous museums in the world. It's where the Mona Lisa lives. The place is massive, with thousands of artworks and historic objects, about 35,000 on display, and over 380,000 in total. It's like walking through art history. As for value, the palace building itself is worth around $10.5 billion because it's in central Paris. But the real treasure is inside. The art collection is estimated at around $35 billion. That brings the total value of the Louvre to about $45.5 billion. Insane. But we're about to hit 700 rooms and a $40 billion lawn. The Palace of Versailles, just outside Paris, is basically the ultimate symbol of royal luxury. It started off as a small hunting lodge for King Louis VIII, but his son, King Louis IX, turned it into one of the most over-the-top palaces ever in the 1600s. Versailles became the main home for French kings and queens until the French Revolution in 1789, when people basically kicked the royal family out. After that, it stopped being a royal home and became a museum. Today, it's a world-famous place people from all over visit to see how the royals lived. The value of Versailles is honestly mind-blowing. The land alone, about 8 million square meters, is worth nearly $40 billion because it's in a super expensive part of France. Then you add in the 700 rooms, all the fancy furniture, decorations, and priceless art, and it's estimated to be worth around $50.7 billion. Some experts say it could even go for more than 50 billion euros if it ever went up for sale. And finally, the palace so epic, people weren't even allowed near it. The Forbidden City in Beijing is honestly one of the coolest and most massive royal places ever built. It was the home of Chinese emperors for almost 500 years, from 1420 to 1912. Back then, regular people weren't even allowed to go near it, which is why it was called forbidden. Today, though, it's a huge tourist attraction and museum. The place is absolutely massive, like a mini-city. It covers 180 acres and has about 980 buildings. The architecture is super detailed, with gold roofs, giant red doors, and carvings everywhere. Inside, there's old thrones, artwork, statues, and tons of rare stuff from the Ming and Qing dynasties. When you think about how valuable it is, it's insane. Some experts say the stuff inside could be worth over $50 billion, making the whole thing about $70 billion. But if you had an unlimited budget and could live in any one of them for a week, which palace are you choosing? Comment below and tell us your royal pick.